Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Town End podcast. I missed the late goal, so the start of my podcast, the introduction has slightly changed, so we're going to have to call it the dying minutes in Dalymount. Welcome to the podcast, folks. We'll get on Donald Hanks and all the way from Chicago, Dean Pingu Arrowsmith. Well, man,
how's it going?
Is it a point? Is it 2 points dropped? Is it a point half gained? What is it, boys? What is it?
Go on, Donald, I'll let
Depends. It depends, and if you look at it from, if you look at where we were with a couple minutes to go, to the place we ended up at the end of the game. But before the game, you'd be like maybe a point away. A Bohs is good, but the way it panned out, it's just a kick in the pants, really. Like, I've just a bizarre penalty decision, and then you were level with Bohs on points, and now you're a few points, 3 points ahead of Waterford. So, look, maybe in the grand scheme of things, it's not the worst result, but it just feels like a defeat considering how good everybody and the form of everybody around us. It was a massive opportunity, so feels a bit flat, I think, tonight.
Yeah, I think
it is. Sorry,
go ahead. I think, it's the timing of it, isn't it? Just deflates you. It's, can you hold on? Like we were just saying off air, I was kind of thinking in my head it'd be great to come on the podcast and say the highlight was how wound up the commentators were getting, the Bohs commentators, and how much more how much more partial they were to be outing themselves as Bohs fans. But it's just it's one of those you'd hope for before the game. A draw away in Dalymount probably would have been a good result after leading for so long, having some great chances like McMillan's chance, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. You were hoping at that point you were going to hang on, and Peter Terry made some great saves as well. And in the second half, we were under pressure. So it's just, as Donald says, it's not the worst result in the world. It's just a killer, isn't it? Just the timing of when it happened.
Yeah, and I think it probably doesn't help that when you see the chances, like you mentioned, Davy Mack, Sean Murray, you've got Pat Hoogan going off just before half time as well. So whether that would have added up maybe to a different second half, we don't know. But it's not like we were in charge of the game either. In an overall game, you're probably looking at it. We probably would have snatched 3 points. We probably would have, I wouldn't say robbed 3 points, but Bohs seemed to put us Peter's made a couple of great saves, and I think early on I was trying to even debate. We were talking half time, the first half. I don't know if it was just a poor half or it was just, I don't know if it was just a quiet Dalymount part. It just seemed like a very boring first half of football. Now that's just I don't know whether that was, maybe we were at the game, maybe the boys were at the game, it might be different, but it just seemed like a really feisty little bits in it, but it just seemed like just a boring first half of football. Is it just me?
No, I had two notes, I think, from like the first 20 minutes. The first one was that Bohs sent somebody out from the hurt locker to get rid of the smoke bomb that someone had thrown onto the field, and that Bohs had one of the strangest corner setups I've ever seen. So there was nothing really going on. And I think for the rest, for most of the first half, it was the same. Like there's half chances here or there. There's, I know, like Bohs were like the lads in commentary. The lads in commentary were amazing in different ways, but they were talking a lot about how they've Rovers on Monday and then the cup semi-final on Friday night. And I don't know whether they were distracted. It seemed like we weren't at our best at all tonight. I think the issues that we encountered in the second half, I don't think Dave McMillan was fit enough to play that length of time. I didn't think Dickie Kelly looked sharp either. Like obviously both coming back from being out for so long, it's hard to expect them to be as fit. But yeah, the match seemed like it was lacking intensity or something in the first half, and then in the second half we looked leggy and they had a good few half chances. But yeah, it just wasn't the easiest watch. And then it does leave you with a horrible sick feeling at the end of it because of how it ended. But yeah, wasn't the best of games, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I thought it was a tough watch. I think once we scored, I think the game kind of actually lit up a little bit for about there was a 5-10 minute spell right after that where Bohs got on top a little bit, and it seemed that before he got injured, which we think happened actually with that collision with Talbot, but it seemed after we scored that Hoopen was everywhere on the pitch. I think it was you, Gally, mentioned in our private chat. He picked up the ball at one stage at left back, and he seemed to be playing almost as an attacking midfielder, picking up the play. And I think from a Dundalk point of view, what we lacked in the second half from where I was listening in and watching the bits that I saw, I think when you replace him with McMillan, and I've obviously talked about the work rate that McMillan has, I'd agree. I don't think he's fully fit yet, but I think as well with the amount of pressure Bohs were putting under the backs in the second half, we didn't have that outlet that you get with Hoban, where the ball will go to his feet and he can hold it up and bring other players into play. With McMillan and even with Dickie Kelly, you're playing the ball over the top, or you're trying to play it in behind the back four, and they'd run onto it. So I feel like the ball just didn't stick up top enough in the second half, and it seemed Bohs weren't great, but it just seemed that like they were the ones that were putting us under more pressure in the second half.
Yeah, I think it's one of them that I think probably I don't know if disappointment's the right word. I don't know if both teams. I don't really know. It's one of those games you don't really know if both teams earned a victory. It just seemed to be. I thought it was actually probably 20-25 minutes into the first half. I actually thought there's a couple of feisty tackles went in, a couple of hard challenges. I really thought that there's a red card written all over it. I thought the second half would come out and just go at it hammer and tongs, but it just seemed to be. It's almost like Pinky said. It's almost they had one eye on next week, and maybe all nerves of getting injured and stuff like that. And like we say, we don't know the extent of Pat's injury, but it just seemed to be kind of look at not that we'll take a draw, but I mean it's not a lucky goal. I mean we probably could have had a penalty for it, but I mean after that, apart from Murray's chance, Davies' chance, there's nothing really in it. It's really only that strike from Sammy that really separated up until now. I haven't seen the penalty incident. I don't know if it's a penalty because I was too busy logging onto my laptop thinking the game was over. That bloody League of Ireland stream, but we probably should have. When you scale it back to the first half, on what we created and Sean Murray's form, we probably should have and could have went 2-0 up. I think. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I see Byron McKeever saying the Bohs look poor and it was 2 points dropped, and it's kind of hard to argue with it. They didn't create like clear cut chances. Like, I felt a little bit like when sports writers or like football writers are at a game and there's a last minute goal and it completely changes their match report that they were about to write. I had the amount of times Georgie Kelly missed, I had written down Player of the Month Georgie Kelly misses, because I was about to be like, how on earth did he win Player of the Month? And then he almost missed the penalty as well. But like it does feel like they should have been 2-0 up. And it didn't look like Bohs had too many chances in them. They put us under pressure. Like, obviously they put us under pressure, but like Cherry made one brilliant save. I think another brilliant save, which was kind of hard to see. And then you didn't get a replay of our end. So, but yeah, it was one of those where like, maybe if you're completely objective, you might look at it and think Bohs weren't really likely to score in that game. But because we're not objective, we're watching thinking Bohs are going to score, they're going to score. And I don't know. I think if they had gotten the second goal, could have been massive 3 points.
Yeah, I think we probably don't. I don't know if we give out too much or probably not enough, maybe. But the ref, there's a lot of talk on Twitter tonight about the referee, and I don't think he helped. I don't really think he helped matters. I think probably for both teams he was probably poor enough. I think it was, almost shows a handball he should have gave us a penalty. But I think, look, it's one of them. And when you look, we haven't even talked individuals yet. I mean, when you look at the likes of Sloggett, I thought Sloggett had a great game. Stanton again had a decent match. Murray, I've listened to another podcast during the week. I think it was League of Ireland Central's Dan McDonald talking about Sean Murray's forms coming into that start of the season where there's a new contract either on offer or there's somebody else looking at him, and that it kind of coincided with that kind of form. I don't know if that's what it is. I think he's just had this run of fitness where he's able to just influence games now because he's probably confident that he can play maybe 90 minutes, 80 minutes. But I thought he had another good game. I thought a solid performance. I don't know if you all watched the Pinky or you're just listening to it. I don't know how it came across. You listened to LMFM when you're watching.
Yeah, no, I got to see the first half, and then I kind of was half watching the second, listening into the best commentators I've ever heard in my life. But yeah, no, I think when we've talked obviously over the last month or so about the rise of Hooban and his form changing, and I think the same has to be said about Sean Murray as well. And it looks like those two and Michael Duffy, all three of them link up so well together.
Yeah.
And there was one play in the first half out on the left hand side where I think Murray won the ball, played it into Hoban, who was able to play it was like a little triangle of the three of them keeping the ball away from Bohs. And I think Murray was great. I mean, when we talk about individuals, one individual that kind of disappointed me a little bit is Cleary, just because he's a bit like of a head case, isn't he? You're waiting for him to do something just mad. Like I thought, to be honest, when he got the yellow card, I thought the way that he grabbed someone at one point and just pushed them out of the way from the Bohs team to go get the ball at one stage, and I was like, he's already on a yellow. Like there's a chance that the ref could give him a second yellow for that and send him off. But again, it's just individually, I think we're starting to get there, though. We're starting to look like a team, and you kind of know. Obviously, we Kelly and McMillan, but we're starting to get like for like subs as well, aren't we? You're getting those substitutions that now you're saying, right, they can change a game. Not to talk bad about the other lads, but we're always, because of the perception of these newer players that we don't really know enough about them. You're just not as full of confidence about those.
I think something that on Sean Murray, the difference for him playing with Hooban and playing with McMillan, I think is going to be massive, because Hooban is, I guess, I was going to say more stationary, but obviously the ball into his feet and then running off him. Him and Duffy have been doing that, have been running either side of him for the last couple of games. But I think when McMillan's instinct is to go, to run in behind, and obviously that's not his strong suit, to hold the ball into his feet and bring players in around him. So I think that might impact Sean Murray a little bit. He might just have to get used to playing with a different type of centre forward again. Because I think there was a chance, or there was a moment in the second half where McMillan got into his feet and Murray had gone past him. And it's like, if that had been Hooban, it was automatically he was turning and the ball was going out in front of Murray. And it's just like, there's a lot to be said for McMillan being out for so long, and there's absolutely no way he was supposed to play for that length of time tonight. We didn't. Hooban's injury came in the goal. We haven't really mentioned the goal. So after Talbot went full Jordan Pickford on Pat Hooban.
I think the cameraman even panned in on the goalkeeper on the incident because he assumed it was a penalty, and they didn't even pick up the second ball. They didn't pick it up at all.
I tweeted earlier on, did it go in? Because I hadn't even seen the ball hit the net. I saw Sammy running off and celebrating, but I wasn't sure if it had actually even gone in. Yeah,
it was. It was. I don't know if that was the worst bit of the camera work, or when they honed in on Peter Cherry for a good minute. Just the League of Ireland stream, just watching Peter Cherry watch the game unfold at the far side of the pitch. But just for anybody who watched or commented, in the Man of the Match award is up for grabs tonight. So for a pizza from Tony's Pizzeria. So comment in your Man of the Match, and we'll pick someone at the end of the show. The goal was it's one of them, and fair play to Sam. He's reacted quick. It's come at him. He definitely wasn't expected to fall at his feet, and to dink it in. I know, look, I'm not sure he planned to have it go over like that, but if he had it held, probably hit it straight. It probably doesn't go in. So yeah, look, the cameramen were just fantastic. It was hilarious watching. Yeah, Chris does have a point there. They will definitely do nothing. But yeah, the stream. Look, it's we can make a podcast on the stream. So it's there's no in between. It's either laughable or it's top class. When Chris Clark done it, there we go.
True fact,
but
that.
yeah, but yeah, look at it. I think if it's not a goal, I think the referee. I don't even think he put the whistle to his mouth for a penalty. So I'm not even sure that was even an option in his head. But I just think we never looked like up until then. That was the chance we had, and that was it. There didn't seem to be, it seemed to be one of those goals that was probably going to win it for us, wasn't it? It was kind of. I know Murray's had the chance, Davy Max had the chance, but we just seemed to invite Bohs from then on. Like it's almost gone back maybe 6 months. Bohs just seem to come on to us. You seem to just let them just invite. Now I know you've got Slogger playing out of position and stuff like that, but and like Pingu said, Cleary's on a yellow card. He has that bit of recklessness in him, so they just knew, right, look, get at them and see what happens. But it was almost like we ushered them on. We kind of gave them that space to play, and we just invited the pressure onto us.
Yeah, and it's like. It reminded me a bit of the Waterford game a few weeks back where like they got an early, and it was earlier in Waterford than it was tonight, but kind of we'll hold on to what we have from basically the time that they scored and try and get a goal in the counter-attack. And that night again, they had an absolutely brilliant chance to go 2-0 up. And if they go 2-0 up, you think that's game over, same as tonight. But yeah, for a team that's struggle for clean sheets, it's not the wisest thing in the world to try and hold out and get 2 clean sheets in a row. Like we waited. I think we had clean sheets since July until Monday night or Friday night, and then we're looking for 2 in a week. So, look, they were, in fairness to them, they were very, very close to getting it too. So, like, what do I know?
Yeah, I think when we look back at the goal as well, you look at the run the Huber made again. I've obviously made no bones about how critical I've been at times that with his work rate, but just being willing to chase in when he's seen the miscommunication between the centre half and the goalie, closing him down and putting his body on the line. You know what I mean? And just letting himself get speared by Brock Lesnar style the Calvary, But no, just that work rate, and then the ball just fell lovely for Sammy, and he had that, and he took the chance when he got it. And you're right. I mean, you look at that and you think to yourself, that's the kind of goal that'll win you a scrappy game like that there, because everything up to that point was just very, very pedestrian, wasn't it? And I was talking in our group chat, and I was saying that I said, we looked like we were just going through the motions at that point. Both teams did. Like no team looked really like they were going to go for it. So. It was great to see it, and as I say, it was just one of those goals where you just felt like we're going to get a scrappy 1-0 here. Nothing else is going to happen for the rest of the game, and we were almost right.
Yeah, we were pretty close to getting nothing for the rest of the game. Like there was the scrappy goals and a few half chances. Maybe someone should have scored. The 2 heel commentators were like probably the most fun of the night. Because normally I turn off the away support. Freudian, the away commentators on Watch LOI, or at least until they're winning, and then I'm like, right, I'm not listening to it anymore. But if we go in front, I'm like, I want to hear these guys. I want to hear them. And I actually done they're losing to Dundalk.
I actually tried to sync up. I stupidly tried to think if I could sync the League of Ireland stream with Adrian Taff, and it just wasn't happening. Adrian and Gillo were just like. They were a minute ahead of everything. I was like, no, I can't. I just had to listen to them, watching them for the last couple of minutes. But I think so. I just reading the comments on Twitter just before. There seemed to be, I think Pingu mentioned earlier on, when Hubin went off, it seemed to be. I don't know if it was Davy's fitness, like you said, Donald. If he come on too early, after that we don't seem to have anything. Like this is where 2-3 years where Georgie Kelly would have come in. You don't want to go back to that, but that's just to see the comment there as well. Is it something that's really going to worry us now over the next couple of weeks? Is if Pat is injured, we don't really have. We've got Sammy, but he doesn't really play as an out-and-out forward. He's kind of that go-between, isn't he, on one of the sides? It'll be an interesting to see what we do with Pats if Davy can be fit. He probably won't be fit for 90 minutes, but we hope Pat's not going to be anything kind of a couple of weeks or anything like that. But is it something that's probably been overlooked, considering the amount of players we have signed?
I think it's probably going to be a change of style of how we've been playing.
Yeah.
Because Davy Mack, he thrives on the ball going in behind the back line. Pat holds it up and brings the likes of a Duffy, Murray into play. So, look, I would hope whenever Vinny gets interviewed after this tonight that he'll say that Pat just had a dead leg after that collision with Talbot. Because if it's a dead leg, hopefully it shouldn't take more than a couple of days to recover, and fingers crossed he'd be all right for Friday night. But it's a hard one to call, isn't it? It's we had Kilduff, who was very like McMillan, and this is the first time in a long time we've got two strikers that play completely the opposite style of each other.
Yeah.
But you're probably asking the question of how fit is Davy Mack to go 90 minutes next week. That would be if Pat's not fit, that would be the bigger question I'd have, because I think looking at how Dundalk's playing at the minute and just looking at the confidence that's in the squad, you would think to yourself, if they have to kind of adjust the style of play, they'll be able to do that. It's just going to be how fit is McMillan for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I see. I think with having Dummigan back, I'm assuming nobody's suspended for Friday night, but then somebody might have picked up a yellow card 2 years ago and now they're suspended for Friday night. But if Dummigan's back in, then you get Sloggett back into midfield. Sammy probably doesn't start next week.
Yeah.
I'd imagine, say Hooban can't go, McMillan would probably start and give you 60 minutes, and then you're looking at what type of game it is when he's coming. When it comes to 60 minutes, if they're in front, then maybe you can throw Dickie Kelly on to do a similar counter-attacking job to tonight, but just put him up front and just have him just keep running in behind. The problem is going to be, I think, if Hooban's not ready and we're behind and we need Davy Mack to give us 90 minutes, I'm sure he'll do it, but what quality you'll get from him is up in the air at this stage. I think that they still have a threat, whatever centre forward is playing. It's just, I think that last half an hour might be crucial to be in the lead for the last half hour if Hooban is out. But like we're saying, if it is a dead leg, then maybe Hooban can do an hour and then McMillan comes in for him. So we're speculating, I guess, but there's ways around it. It's just, it's a change in style. It's not like a massive change in style, but it is a change in style depending on which one of them is up front. And it's a strange one if you're going all week wondering whether Hooban's going to be fit or not. What systems are you working on? What are you working on? What we've been working on for weeks now with Hooban up front, or do you have to kind of change it a little bit because you think maybe he's not going to be there and McMillan's going to be up top? So, it's a big week. It is pretty desperate timing with the game next week. But I mean, I had it. we were on the absolute bare bones until the two boys came back tonight on the bench.
Yeah,
we were one injury away from catastrophe. So, at least the timing is better than if it had been 2 weeks ago that he got injured, because at least we have Davy Mack on the bench that can come on for him.
Yeah, I think you take the squad that's there now at the minute, the fact that they've, I wouldn't say settled, but the fact that they've got this, what we were looking for at the start of the season, this word we have thrown about, this cohesion, and the kind of, it's not that the side doesn't pick itself, but people now kind of have, right, well, this is probably the best 9 or 10, and then we mix it up front, whatever, if there's an injury and stuff. But surely Vinny's probably got a plan. I don't want to jump ahead to next week straight away, but a squad like that should be able to cater for something, for an issue such as that. I mean, if Pat Hoban is out, you've got Davy that can play 60 minutes or even come off. but surely there's an option there, whether it be Dickie Kelly, whether it be Sammy. You'd like to think that, barring any massive catastrophe of injuries in the next couple of days, whether it be the pitch or touch wood, any more COVID issues or anything like that, I'm about to say we shouldn't have any issue, but then you forget the opposition is Stephen O'Donnell's Pats, and it's just it could be game of the season. It really could. Pingu, do you think the boys at Pats will be rubbing their hands together tonight, or do you think they fancy themselves overall over 90 minutes against Dundalk in full flight?
I mean, Cup semi-final, you have to fancy yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
And you're talking about one of two managers in the league, big friends at Between the Stripes, Stephen O'Donnell, who, he probably knows Dundalk better than anybody, and he's got players in the squad that know Dundalk better than anybody. So, yeah, I think they are going to fancy themselves, but, Vinnie Perrett's going to hopefully know the way Stephen O'Donnell thinks too, so it's one of them, obviously with the Hoban situation, they'll be happy with that, but I believe at the end of the commentary tonight, they were saying, did Pats get someone sent off tonight as well?
Aye, Ronan Cochran was sent off. So
he'll most likely be out this week. If it was a straight red, that means he'll miss a domestic game automatically. So, every cloud is silver lining and all that. Yeah. So, Look, they will fancy it, but as the way we've been playing, we're the form team over the last 4 weeks, so we have to fancy our chances with or without Pat. That we have a chance of getting a result, and you just have to think to yourself that this time next week we'll be celebrating another cup final to go to. I might even fly home for it.
Yeah, there's a big
no
promise.
Pressure, lads.
There's a big promise, folks.
Maybe.
It all depends now if any of the players will listen to the one Pingu back in the country. That's the big problem.
Exactly no.
Without just getting too ahead of ourselves, just go back to the night. Just a lot of comments we've seen on the side there for man of the match. 1 or 2 for Peter Cherry, and he's probably come in for. Look, we talked about the goalkeeping situation all season, but then when you produce, I think even the commentator said, you never think he's 38 or 37. I can't remember the exact age, but he's been solid enough tonight, hasn't he? He probably has a more command and presence than any goalkeeper we've seen all season. I know any of 3, but there's been a lot of changes. And I think it's probably just been settled now that this back 4 and Pete seem to be kind of working well together.
Yeah, I wrote a thing during the week about the
I read it.
The Jenga theory, and the for anybody that didn't read it, which is probably anybody that's going to watch this, the Jenga theory is that there's one piece of every team that's, if that piece is removed, then the Jenga tower will crumble or team will crumble. And I made arguments, like Hooban. I shouldn't have said anything about anybody getting injured, but I said if Hooban did get injured, McMillan would be there on the bench and we can plug him in up front, and it's not going to be a huge drop off, or it could be an improvement depending on who you ask. Mickey Duffy seems pretty irreplaceable on the left hand side. That I don't think there's anybody in the league as good as him when he's on his at his best. But the one that I think is the most irreplaceable now is Peter Cherry. I think they're unbeaten since he came in. They've conceded goals, fair enough, but I can go back to what it was like being in the ground. There's a tangible difference when he's in the team. Everybody's more confident with him. You see another excellent save again tonight. Like I said, I think there was another save that was probably better than the flashy one straight after it. But obviously you have to go back and look at it again. But I think he's the importance of that position. I mean, we all know how important a goalkeeper is and a good goalkeeper is. And you often hear people saying about you're never going to win a trophy without at least a dependable goalkeeper. And since he's come in, I was even going to say he hasn't been hasn't been flashy, but he's had some fantastic saves. But it's the dependability that's the thing to me. Like the ball coming into the box, you're not worried. I mean, I've mentioned this a few times before, but like sometimes he does just stand in the line and a corner can come into the 6-yard line and he won't come for it. But overall, you're looking at like the back four seems so much more confident with him there. And I find it hard for anybody to tell me that anybody's more important to them at the minute than him being in goals, which is absolutely mind-boggling when you think of how long he wasn't in, and that we tried 2 keepers before him. He did have that absolute shocker earlier in the season, so it's not like there was literally no reason, but it's absolutely crazy for him to have been sitting on the bench for so long and now to be as important as he is.
That's pretty good. Is he gone? Fingers crossed, Cal.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, Donald just said Everton. I wanted to say, I've been vocal about. I don't think Peter's the long-term option for us, and I still stand over that. But I think right now we don't need a long-term option for goalie, and I think Donald's hit the nail on the head there. That he just breeds confidence into your back four. They just look so much better than they did. Like we made a joke at the start of the season that Dan Cleary was giving out to BB just walking out of the tunnel, before the game even started. You don't see that now. Peter's the presence behind them, and he's vocal. Still, they might have been able to understand Alessio a little bit more than the Scottish accent, but but at least when he's vocal like that, they know their job and they know they've got someone sound behind them. Not that he, as Donald says, he's still prone to a mistake here and there, and I think every game there is a little one, but it's not calamitous in the same way that it has been with Alessio Beebe and Yates in the game that we've seen him play. So yeah, I probably agree. I think you're talking 3 players that are undroppable right now, or probably Hubin if he's fit, Cherry, and I'd say Sean Murray as well. I think he's another one that has to start.
Yeah, I think that's what we're kind of looking at for start of the year. We're kind of looking at this kind of, is the best squad out there? Are we seeing kind of the same players being selected each week? And I think, bar obviously Slogger tonight, it's getting that consistency together. And in a way, yeah, we've got, Pat Hogan may be injured. We don't know. We don't think we hope it's not massively serious, but you've got that team unity now, that kind of feel good factor going into a semi-final. This is probably, like you're talking about the biggest, like you're already talking the biggest game of the last number of seasons because of where we are in the league and what a win in the cup would do to you, do for the club, do for the fans. Obviously, we jokingly call it the annual trip to the Aviva, but I mean, we've probably taken it for granted over the last couple of seasons. But this game next week now it has been massive all season, but when we're coming into, we've got this type of form behind us. I dare I say it's probably coming at a perfect time, really, in some ways. But it's look, we don't have too much to give it about tonight because at the end of the day, most people before, if you're rocking up to Philsborough at 7:30 tonight going into, you would have taken a draw before the referee blew the whistle. So look, it's not the worst thing in the world to be annoyed that you've conceded a last-minute penalty at someone like Dalymount, and we've probably little to be given out about it ahead of a semi-final of a cup next week about against probably on their day probably the best footballing team in the league, in my opinion. When they're on it, they're as good as anybody. So it's nice coming on to a podcast just talking about the game. And we're not there's not mad controversy this week or nothing.
Is there not? No.
Well,
we get there.
There was a little bit. There was a little bit of people were watching, but it depends if people were picking it up or not.
But yeah, no, you're right. I think it's great to be looking forward, isn't it? It's great to be just talking about a match and then looking forward to next week. I think honestly, if we have this season we just had and win a cup, and I think we've got a great opportunity to do it if we can knock out Pats on Friday. What a season that is, like.
I was listening to Dan O'Connell on League of Ireland Central, and he has us as favourites. Like he not in the boogie, but he said that they're easily the favourites to win, in his opinion, to win the cup because just of the history and the run they're going on at the minute. Because he would have Dundalk in his favourite. So, it's I don't think we would be, but we have that underdog tag at the minute. But I think the boys they could strive off it. I think. Yeah. Look, I don't go
on. I think we have to give credit to Vinny as well for the last few weeks, don't we? For galvanising the squad, and he's actually done less talking and he's kept the noise out by what we're seeing anyway. At least there's not as much kind of hullabaloo as there was 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he's gonna be pushing for a cup win because that's the cup that he missed out on in 2019. So you've got that added incentive from his point of view. It's probably a little bit personal to him to bring the cup home to Dundalk, the one trophy that he wasn't able to. So look, we'd be hoping that we do that, and if we get to a cup final, I mean, the talk needs to start back up again. Is Vinny the man for the job long term?
Will you have any players? That's the and not to harp on about League of Ireland Central. It was fresh in my memory coming on tonight. Dan, I know people, Dan's Dundalk, this kind of crack, but he was basically saying 99. If anybody listened to it, he was 99% sure that Will Patchen would be going to Derry. He's 99% sure it's happening. I didn't realise it was that. I know you hear all the rumours. It's when you hear someone like Dan McDonald saying it, you kind of have to take notice, don't you? It's kind of Patchen, another good performance tonight. When he's on the ball, when he's moving with the ball, he's unplayable on his day, isn't he?
I think Jerry King Lawler mentioned that on commentary tonight as well. I don't know if he picked up the same thing that you did.
Did he? Okay.
That he's more than likely off to Derry, but I mean, we've heard that now for a while, and it's not really a surprise. I mean, you're automatically thinking when he comes back from Derry to us that when he's out of contract at the end of the season, he'll just go back to Derry. Like, they know, Rory Higgins knows the exact player that he's getting. He knows the manager that he's going up there to. So it just makes too much sense, really. And then obviously at the time we didn't know he'd be going up there to play with McElhenney and Duffy. So and maybe player of the month, Georgie Kelly.
Just to throw into the mix.
Yeah, but there's look, I don't know whether like the pass result tonight is just one of those things where you're like, they probably had an eye on next week. It's hard to know, obviously, because we didn't see it and we're just guessing. But I don't know whether, Pinky, you saw that, but Dan Pope's after telling us that Coughlin will be available next week.
I saw that, yeah.
He's going to be
Dan's gone and absolutely ruined the buzz for everybody now.
He's going to be suspended sometime in 2022. He won't be allowed to Butlers or something. I don't know what the crack is, but it's like, I can't really do anything about it. But there'll be, I think that thing about them, like, people are going to talk Dundalk into being favourites, I think, now because of the form that they've been in.
Yeah.
Not that, like, Dan's obviously incredibly anti-Dundalk and hates Dundalk and doesn't want Dundalk to do well. And
this is Dan McDonald now.
Yeah.
Not Dan Pope in the comments.
No, sorry. Yeah, no, not him. But maybe he's doing it to his friends. I don't know. But it's not like Dan McDonald is trying to heap pressure on them and further his anti-Dundalk hatred or whatever it is. I genuinely think there's going to be like a feeling going into the game that Dundalk will be favourites. I know Pats are second and they beat us, what was it, 4-0, 4-1 the last time in Oriel. And I do think people are going to like buy into that thing of like, we're the favourites because we've won it so many times and we know how to get to the final and all that sort of stuff, And I'd imagine the skipper's going to do the same. I'd imagine Stevie O'Donnell's going to do the same thing. Like, he's going to be talking about how Dundalk are favourites and Dundalk know how to get to cup finals and we haven't been to a cup final in whatever length of time and this is a young squad and all that kind of manager stuff. Like, you're absolutely guaranteed that's going to come out before Friday. And it's up to Vinny to tell the players that they actually still have to go out and get a win, they still have to perform. And that thing of like, Vinny getting a long-term contract and stuff. There was that story going around, obviously, about him getting the rumor, the noise, or whatever that was going around about him getting the contract for next season, and then that went away. And you're wondering, like, would he take another contract? Like, we're all thinking he definitely will, because he obviously has massive affection for the club and all that stuff. But if you told him none of these players are coming back, is he going to fancy it? If he wins the cup, will he just be like, right, I'm a cup winner, I've completed the domestic everything, I'm away? I just wonder whether, like, or if he wins the cup and we finish higher than third last, so essentially you're asking him to win about 4 more games, maybe 5 more games. That's enough. Like, that's enough for us to be like, yeah, keep him. And I'm like, Gally took some shots a couple of weeks ago about suggesting that he thought Vinny was the right man for the job at the time, and I was exactly the same. I thought he was the right man for the job, and I still think if he has a decent squad of players, which he has now, and if everybody's fit, which we have a fit enough 11, you'll start getting results. But there's just so many questions really before we can even think about, like, contracts for next seasons and stuff. So
it would all hinge on look at, can he put a squad together? Is he going to be able to financially put a squad together? Not massive amounts of money, just what's he going to have to deal with. I think that'll really be the be all and end all when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I think, there's only one man can answer those questions, and that's Vinny, isn't it? But you would think you'd have to wonder what his motivations are. Is his motivation when he won the cup in 2019, or when he won the league, in 2019, people were still saying that was a Stephen Kenny squad. So will he maybe relish the opportunity to have a blank canvas next year and build a squad and try and take them in the same vein that Stephen Kenny did? On the flip of that, the league has changed drastically in 8 years, where you don't have full squads with no contracts at the end of the season. The best players are going to be signed as soon as the season's finished, and they'll know where they're going next year. So it's one of those, but I think, and I've gone back, like, I flip-flopped throughout the season on my thoughts on Vinny, but I think over the last 5-6 weeks, I think he's definitely done enough to warrant that opportunity. And if he wins next Friday, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Get him signed up. I wouldn't, no matter who's going to own the club next year, why wouldn't you want someone that's able to get you the 2 cup finals and 2 full, well, half a season he's got this year. He's got a Shamrock Rovers season, hasn't he? If he can get us to a cup final, I mean, you have to be looking at him as being the prime candidate for next year.
Yeah, you would think so, but then all logic goes out the window when you park up at all about these days.
Should we go with the man of the match?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Don't
I can start this off very easy. I'm all over Greg Sloggett tonight for man of the match. Cherry's pulled off 1 or 2 saves, but I think playing out of position, right back, I find it hard to make it. Look, I'm open for anybody else to come in, but that's what I'd be sticking with anyway. Considering he's played right back, I think he's been a great shift.
Biggie, you want to go ahead?
I'll go ahead. Yes, why not? I'll go with Sloggett too. From what I seen in the first half, I thought he done very well, and then his name kept being mentioned when I was listening to the second half. So for the right reasons. So for that reason, and all the other reasons I mentioned, I'm going to pick Greg Sloggett.
Yeah, that's 3 out of 3. I'm going with Sloggett as well. I thought Sam Stanton had a really good game as well.
Yeah.
Again, it was one of those performances that reminded me of when he was playing as the holding midfielder by himself, like when Sloggett was out. He can do a really good job there. I thought he was good. The Andy Boyle was solid, and Dan Cleary was Dan Cleary, which is, I guess, a positive. It is a positive. He's entertaining. he absolutely looks like he will murder someone at some point on a football field and then wonder why he's gotten sent off, while also trying to do solos around the referee. But he's they were all good. Like Jerry as well is a good shout for man of the match. But yeah, playing right back when you're not a right back and being as comfortable as he was tonight, it has to be Sloggett for me.
Yeah, I'd like to apologise to Shane Supple. I would have loved to give him man of the match just for his commentary, because that kept me entertained during the drab parts of the game. But you have to go with Sloggett.
I think when someone plays out of position like that, and not someone who'd be known for being astronomically quick. I didn't actually think he was that fast to play that role. But yeah, I think you've probably been harsh on one or two. But I think the fact that he's played there and. Go Donal, I will let you pick from the comments there who we're going to go with overall. Or we've got a few. It started off kind of Peter Cherry, and then we've had it's pretty much been Sloggett the whole way, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much all Sloggett. I'll tell you, like we gave him. I give out about him sort of, saying he had an anti-Dundalk bias. I didn't mean him, and I also don't mean that Dan McDonnell has an anti-Dundalk bias. I'm not one of those people. But we'll pick Dan Pope for man of the match for the pizza. Well, not actually for man of the match. You don't get man of the match, but you get the pizza.
Good man,
so,
Dan. We've comments coming in. I think there's one or two comments on Twitter. We have to apologise because the show's not live on Twitter tonight. There's something wrong with the post going up, but there is people commenting on it. You can't click the YouTube link and can watch it on YouTube if you don't have the old FaceTube.
There was a good reason for that.
Oh, there we go. He drank Twitter.
Me and Twitter went out last night and got too drunk.
Yeah. As we do like to cover. We try and cover all things Oriel Park and all things Dundalk. And something I'd seen during the week. I'd like to get the boys' thoughts on it, because obviously I'm involved with lady soccer, and this might be of interest to some people watching. But so the club has gone looking for players on under 17s girls for a National League team. But the consensus seems to be, I was kind of aware, but I don't think it's been confirmed that they've knocked the under 19s on the head, but that seems to be the consensus underneath the post that was put up during the week. Or I actually think some parents have texted in, the parents of the under 19s players, ladies team, who are playing. They're actually playing in the EDFL at the minute as a senior team in what they were told was going to be the build up to joining the League of Ireland under 19s league in 2022. But that seems to have been scrapped, and they've gone looking for under 17s players. Now, I don't know if it's been scrapped. The Dundalk haven't confirmed anything, but it seems it's coming across in the parents that these girls were promised this carrot of National League football was dangled in front of them at under 19s level, and now they've decided to go with under 17s instead. Like, where do you go? Would it happen at the risk of being sexist? Would this happen at boys football? It just seems it beggars belief, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that you can have players playing a whole season in Oriel Park, and then from the carpet we put under them.
Yeah, I think obviously we don't know the actual story about what's going on behind the scenes, but first things first. I mean, it's great news to see that there is an under 17s team going in at women's level, and not before time. I mean, it should have been done a while back, in my opinion. But yeah, it's it's great news, and it was kind of put out by the club as a great news story. And then you go into the comments on Facebook, and there's not one positive comment. As you say, Gally, it seems to be parents and family members of the under 19s who have been not only put together to play in the NEFL, but they've been beyond successful. You know what I mean? They're going out and annihilating teams. So it's kind of, if it is the case of all those comments being true, and that the rug being pulled from under them, like, questions have to be asked, or there needs to be answers put out from the club. Like, why not? Why aren't they getting this opportunity? If they're aging out of under 19 level, why don't the club enter a team into the women's league? at senior level, and let them play and have a young squad there that you can kind of build up. You've got clubs now like Ballorgan have women's team, Key Celtic, you've got the Castletown Bells, Cootehill Harps have teams at underage level and at senior level down in Cavan that are playing NEFL, and I've played against Dundalk this year. Why can't the club develop a structure now in the northeast of Ireland? Look, I've been blowing about this for years, but on the women's side of things now, where there's a growth and there seems to be a lot of positivity around it, the club should be making every effort, I think, to push forward, to have it at underage level. But I don't see why Dundalk FC wouldn't be looking seriously at having a women's team next year as well, having a senior ladies team playing in the Women's National League. It seems when you look at the results in the NEFL, I think, Gally, you probably follow it a little bit closer than me, but I think they may have lost to King's Court. That might be the only game they lost this season. But they played Cootehill Harps, which is a team that my father, who's a born and bred Dundalk man, my father formed the club down in Cootehill. They bet them, I think it was 13 or 14-0 at one stage earlier in the season. And if you're going out and beating local teams like that, why don't you put yourself on the national stage and build it from there? And it just, as I say, we're speculating here a little bit because we don't know the full story. But when you look at those comments, it doesn't read very well, does it?
Yeah, I think the problem started. I remember an interview being done during the NEFL with the coaches up at Oriel Park, and they had said that the plan was to find them a league now, because this team would have been a young team. I think they may have played under 18s in the MGL or 17s last year. I'm not sure. I'm open to options on that. But what seemed to happen was they grew out of their age in the MGL, so they put them into the NEFL to play a league this season. And the plan, it's written, there's an interview done, and the plan was to put them into with the anticipation of going into the National League. So obviously players and parents were told this. And they've been under the tutelage of the coaches up there, and fantastic coaches. I know one or two of them personally, and it seems the coaches mightn't have been aware of this either. I'm not really sure what's going on. And the irony is that last season they had a group of 15-year-olds who were playing in this squad. So this squad now under 19s, they were deemed surplus to requirements because of their age group, because they actually contacted various clubs around town to see if they could provide an under 16 training set up for them. Us being one of them, Castletown Bells, but we didn't have an under 16 set up for them. So the irony is they've gated players who would have fitted now this under 17s team. So there's no foresight. We're back to this thing of no foresight and rushing ahead and steamrolling on and not thinking of down the line. And it seems to be. I'm slightly just reading the comments there as well, and some of them, it's the same thing. There's nobody defending what's going on. There's nobody seems to be breaking the pattern of people are just so disgusted over this. So obviously these girls were promised. No, obviously there's nothing promised in life. You have to earn it. But going by the results and the way these girls train and play, they give it 100%, and they come from all over the county as far as I know. And it just seems to be, it's something that's like, I'd be a big advocate for girls soccer, as anybody who knows me knows. But if this went on at the boys, this is all we'd be talking about tonight. We probably, like, the game probably would have got 6 or 7 minutes. It's and it doesn't get mentioned because it's lady soccer. And it's unfortunate. Like, times are changing, but it just seems to be. It was only for the comments. I never realised there was this kind of negativity towards it. I just assumed that they weren't. They were doing both, to be honest. But it just seems to be. And I know some of the comments. I know some of the people that put it up, and there's absolute disgust over it. And it just seems so unfair that you would take the best of the best in town and further afield, put them in Oriel Park. Like, for instance, Castletown Bells don't have a senior team because we can't compete. So when you're taking the best of the Oriel Park and then not providing for them, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, I would argue they shouldn't have been in the NEFL anyway, because it would be like entering the boys team under 19s into the NEFL, and that wouldn't happen. But of course, there's no league for them, so I can understand why they wanted the competition for the season. But to then go and what it seems to be, the Dundalk haven't put in another statement saying that they are or are not, but it just seems to be they've just cast these girls aside and just said, look, we're going with the under 17s. Now, I don't know if it's a thing of they don't think they're good enough. I think the results show that they're not bad. It just seems to be another just catastrophe. It just seems to be another. I haven't used the word shit show in a long time, but it seems to be. It's just a disaster. It's just a disaster. Like, surely there's somebody who thought at some stage this was not a good idea. It really, like, I know, Donald, you're a Dundalk fan, and you know the girls soccer. I think you might coach the girls over in America as well. But even just as a non-coaching, good-looking fella, what like coming from the outside, what would you immediately think of this? Like, if you were a fan of this, what would, like, I don't even know how it looked. I've got a biased hat on because I coach girls soccer, but I'd like to get someone like yourself just to what you think of it.
No, well, I first of all, it's like at least they're not planning forward with the men's team or the women's team. Like, there's no forward planning at all. Yeah, they're consistent across both. But the thing that, like, again, if you take out all the other stuff that's happening with the men's team and contracts and all that kind of stuff, this is the kind of thing that you'd be thinking they'll try this because people won't react, because people like me won't be affected by it. Like, shamefully, I have a very passing interest in the women's football. Like, the Twitter and Facebook and Instagram updates and stuff, I see all them and I'd like clock the information stuff, but it doesn't really get on my radar. And that seems like what their reliance is, that like most people won't care. Like, it's the people that are absolutely directly affected by this that are going to be upset about it and that are going to call attention to it. And I mean, what I thought we could have done tonight was that you could have just done what you've just done, which is explain this situation to me, because I'm ignorant to this. I saw these things come in and I'm like, it's off my radar. It's not something that I knew anything about. I fully grasped the anger and the upset in those comments and what people were saying about it. But it is probably something, if everything plays out the way we think it's going to play out, there needs to be a little bit more attention brought to it, because it seems like, again, it's just people not making forward planning decisions and just being like, look, we'll just pull the rug out from under them. Who cares?
And what's more annoying is that they have history in this. Like, this is not the first time a ladies team or a girls situation, like the girls clubs have been like Castletown Bells came about on the back of being treated like shit in Oriel Park. Like, my father was the chairman up in Oriel Park. Like, he won't mind me talking about this. You know, it was just a disaster the way it was run, because it was just very simple. There was nobody paying attention to it. Nobody, the success on the field of the men's, and I understand that, but it just seems to be it seems to be a recurring nightmare now for everybody. Like, the senior team that came down the line after my father's team became Key Celtic. So that's telling stories there where they're being developed in Oriel Park and then they're just not being paid attention to. And then they're just being able to walk right out the door. Like, for two senior teams to walk out the door, if you count the cup winning team, it's 3 in a decade that have just literally walked out the door and gone playing somewhere else. And nobody batted an eyelid. Coaches, like, everybody gone. And I kind of thought with this situation it would change. Look, we don't know the full facts of it. You know, we just simply don't know. We just know that they're advertising for under 17s, and there's no word of what was promised under 19th, it seems. And you know, I'm sure there's people watching this, if there's still anybody watching this, that don't have any interest in this. But it's part of the Dundalk Football Club. They're going to hang their hat on ladies soccer. They're going to get involved in ladies soccer in Oriel Park. So if it's going to work, they have to do it properly. So it has to be run like everything else is run. And it's just so, there's so many people that would give their right arm to get up there and help out, and they don't seem to be able to reach out and do this. And it's not, that's not me, by the way. If anybody thinks I'm vying for anything, I'm not qualified to do anything up there. But you know, there's people in town that are, and you know, it's only a phone call that would, you know, take. I know they're not well versed in National League and ladies soccer, but there's people who are. Plenty of coaches in town have been, and you know, just get them up, get it sorted. Don't like. It's going to be a missed opportunity. Pingo, I'm not sure what way it works in Chicago, if it's go to right up the senior level, or if it's a statewide league. I'm not really sure, but something like this wouldn't happen in yours, would it?
No, I definitely wouldn't. I mean, the way that it works out here is the professional team out here is the Chicago Red Stars, and every other club has up to U23 level, because college plays a big factor in football out here. You know, that's almost like the pathway at underages into the college system. And then out of those U23s and out of the college system, that's where Chicago Red Stars get their player pool from, or that's where the professional teams get theirs. But like, you know, I think when we look at the broader picture of all of this, and this is kind of getting away with what the discussion was about with the underage system, but and I don't want to turn this into an anti-Peak Six podcast to finish it off, but I was talking to you, Gally, before we went on air about it. Is like, you know, over the last couple of years, the club has taken this approach of signing young players fresh out of college, Tanner Dogan, Tariq Mohammed, and these players that 100% haven't worked out, right? They've been here, 4 years now, I think, 3.5, 4 years in charge of the club. Why couldn't they work on establishing a senior women's team made up of local players and these college athletes that maybe didn't get their chance out in the National Women's League out here, you know, and give them the opportunity and build up a credible women's team where Dundalk then have a men's team that's performing in the Europa League. You've got a women's team that are going to play in the Women's Champions League, and then you've got people building up the game. You know, that's where some of the problem is now. And I'm not trying to make excuses for anything that maybe is happening right now at the club, but you're trying to build it from scratch, you know. And as you say, Gally, there was a women's team up there, and I remember the women's team back in 2010, whenever I was up there, and they were quite successful from what I remember at the time. You know, they weren't just a run-of-the-mill team; they were performing quite well. Like, why is that being allowed go? I feel like we've had this conversation about so many things over the course of the season, but why is that being allowed fall by the wayside? You know, and why is that not there, so that now that women's soccer is so prominent globally, but it's starting to get bigger in Ireland, and you look at the model with Shells. You know, Shells are just after winning the first division. The women just got into the cup final last weekend, and you look at the equal, like, if you look at their social media, Friday night is dedicated to the men, Saturday is dedicated to the women. Social media is only about the women. You don't see anything about the night before. Why can't Dundalk FC do something similar and start building the women's division? Start building the women's side of the game. And in fairness, Donald, I appreciate how honest you were there about, you know, you don't have that graph for women's football yet, but the club haven't done anything to help you build that. You know what I mean? Like, if we had a team that was successful, and in all fairness and no disrespect to Coot Hill Harps, but putting up a story on your website saying you bet Coot Hill Harps 12-0 doesn't really whet the appetite, because who are Coot Hill Harps in the grand scheme of things? If Dundalk got a 2-1 win against Drogheda United or against a Shelbourne, then you're going to be more inclined to say, well, this is a well-known club or a well-established club against a well-established club. So I think there's a bigger picture here that maybe needs to be discussed. But yeah, I think a trick has definitely been missed over the last 3 or 4 years, that Peak Six could have really invested in having a strong men's team and having a competitive women's team. And that's me rant over.
Isn't the irony of all this now where Peak Six are going next?
That's what I mean. You know, they could have spent a fraction of what they're going to spend at Monaco on developing a women's team here.
And I think we talked about at the time, or maybe we talked about it off air or whatever, about the how women's football is becoming more prominent, and it's covered so much more, and it's covered completely differently than it was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like, it's coming on leaps and bounds, and you'd be thinking that they're like, oh, like, if we got in on the ground floor of an established football team and got in, like, in the women's division with Monaco, we could get into the Champions League. And it's like, no, like, wasn't all that just here already? Like, couldn't you have just done that here?
Exactly.
It's just, I don't know.
People forget the dog ladies have been in the Champions League. Like, it's not unfathomable. Like, you know, that Sonia Hoy team went to the Champions League. You know, it's not like, and that's only talk of 15, 16 or 14 years ago. You know, it's just, Yeah.
And like
Foresight.
Wexford youths over the last 5 years have actually been quite successful in Europe as well. You know, they got a couple of wins. I think they may, I could be completely wrong on this, but they may have actually got a good result against PSG a couple of years ago. And just imagine the budget that Wexford youth ladies have when you look at the budget what Wexford men have. You know what I mean? That they're able to get that. We're just a little bit more oversight, and having a women's team like Dundalk could have manufactured over the last couple of years a women's team that would have dominated the league, you know, the Women's National League, and got into the Champions League. And just imagine the knock-on effect that would have at the underage system. But it's, I don't know. That's we could talk about this for ages. We were trying to keep this at 45 minutes.
This is part 2, isn't it? This is the second 45 minutes.
I think we can probably end it on that, boys, can we? Just get your act together. That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
And then, like, just speak to the parents. That's like I just seen the comments. You break your heart. Like the wool's been pulled over the right. Just speak to them. Just like that's what you're there for. You know,
it's a transparency thing, isn't it?
Of course.
Just be transparent.
Yeah. Exactly. Man, I think we leave it at that. What are we? 1 hour 8 minutes. I think that's enough for what's the word I used at the start? A day in minute daily amount. Look, thanks to everybody watching. If anybody still is watching, I know I get very passionate about soccer. Anybody that knows me, but it's if you listen to this tomorrow, have a read of the comments and then get back to it. Cheers. Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But look, we leave it at that.
Before we finish up, today is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. I've obviously been quite vocal on social media since myself and my wife Emily lost Charlie May back in December. Since then, a lot of Dundalk fans have reached out privately and fans throughout the league. So just thoughts are with everybody that's gone through something similar today. So just wanted to let everyone know that we're thinking of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can end it. We probably can't end the show any better than that, don't we? Can we?
No, I mean, like it's just one of those things. Like there's obviously things that are much bigger than football, and that's one of them. So, I think we'll just hit the music now, will we?
Perfect. Cheers, Bingo.
Cheers, lads.